Do you hear it? The echoes of the past, the whispers of forgotten truths, fragments of memories lost in the shadows. Welcome to BRAINROT, Echoes, where we bring you stories long buried, unravel mysteries cloaked by time, and guide you through the darkest corners of the mind and the universe. Each video is more than just content. It's an echo resonating deep within, urging you to question, to wonder, to explore. Backend index pointing right, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and join us in listening to the echoes the world tried to silence. Human-style diplomacy. What do you want us to do now, Captain? Eli Kincaid stared at the towering, multi-limbed alien diplomat with an expression that could only be described as weaponized disbelief. The Vexery ambassador, all 7 feet of iridescent carapace and compound eyes, clicked its mandibles in what Eli had come to recognize as their version of an exasperated sigh. As I have explained 3 times, Captain, the Galactic Council requests Earth's assistance in repaying a debt. Right. Eli nodded, pacing the length of the diplomat chamber aboard the relentless Curiosity. And that debt involves us deliberately antagonizing the most dangerous predator species in known space. The same species that, according to your own records, has obliterated 13 planetary civilizations? Those guys. The Dravak, Ambassador Thrix clarified, as if naming the nightmare made it any better. Yeah, them. Eli snorted. Just checking we're on the same page about the suicide mission you're suggesting. Humans had only been part of the galactic community for 23 years. Practically infants on a cosmic scale. When the Vexery scout ships had first arrived in Earth orbit, humanity had done what it always did when faced with the unknown, panicked briefly, then got really curious. First contact had gone surprisingly well, considering humanity's general track record with meeting new peoples throughout its own history. Turns out most sentient species in the galaxy were herbivores or omnivores with a distinct preference for synthesized proteins. Evolution tends to favor that when technology advancement reaches a certain point. The fewer wars, the more resources for space travel. But this little evolutionary quirk had left the Galactic Council with a rather glaring weakness. When the rare aggressive carnivore species emerged into space, nobody knew quite how to handle them. Enter humanity. The weird omnivores with carnivore trends who somehow hadn't managed to blow themselves up before reaching the stars. The debt is legitimate, Thrix insisted, antennae twitching. When the Gerillian plague threatened Earth 7 years ago, the Council provided the cure without hesitation. Now we merely ask for you to poke the cosmic bear. Because we're the expendable new kids, right? Eli finished. Because you are uniquely qualified, the ambassador corrected. All 4 of its arms moved in a fluid gesture that Eli recognized as their version of emphasis. Your species possesses something the Council races do not. A death wish adaptability under pressure. And the ambassador hesitated, compound eyes flickering in what Eli had come to recognize as embarrassment. And you understand predator psychology. Eli stopped pacing and turned to face the ambassador. Hold up. You're saying you want us to help because we're part predator ourselves? Exactly. Eli ran a hand through his dark hair. That's both flattering and deeply concerning. The Vexery made a clicking sound that Eli's translator rendered as laughter. Welcome to galactic politics, Captain. The council chamber of the Nova Concord station was as pretentious as Eli had expected. All soaring arches and holographic displays showing the unified progress of the 100-plus species that made up the Galactic Council. Representatives from 24 worlds sat in a tiered semicircle, their attention fixed on the lone human standing in the center. Admiral Zelka, the Alteran who served as head counselor, leaned forward. Her translucent skin pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that indicated intense focus. Captain Kincaid, you have reviewed our proposal? I've reviewed what appears to be a thinly veiled suicide pact. Yes, Eli replied, enjoying the ripple of discomfort that passed through the assembled dignitaries. Humans hadn't quite mastered the art of political doublespeak that controlled council meetings. Most found it refreshing. Some found it terrifying. The Dravaks have annexed 3 systems in the past solar year, Admiral Zelka said. Non-council worlds, but inhabited despite. Their expansion pattern suggests they will reach vexillary space within 18 months. And instead of preparing your defenses, Eli said, "You want us to," what was the diplomat's phrasing? "Create a negotiation scenario that redirects Dravak's attention?" A Morgan representative, whose species resembled nothing so much as an upright octopus in ceremonial robes, gurgled into its translator. "Your crude summary is essentially correct. The Dravaks respect strength and territory. They do not respect herbivores. But they might respect fellow predators," Eli finished. "Even baby predators like us. Your species has a certain reputation," the Jadar counselor added, skin flaps vibrating. "The Dravak intercept your entertainment broadcasts. They have a particular fascination with your historical documentaries. Ili Dlinket. Or what now? The dramatic retellings of your conflicts. The World Wars. Something called Rambo. An instructional series titled Die Hard." It took every ounce of military discipline for Eli not to burst into laughter. "Those aren't." He stopped himself. "You know what? Never mind. So the Dravaks think we're all muscle-bound action heroes. They believe humans are worthy of study," Admiral Zelka said carefully. "Possibly worthy of respect, which no other council species has managed to achieve. So you want us to leverage this misconception to scare them off," Eli noted. "A species that's evolutionary apex predators with technology 500 years ahead of ours." The Morgan representative gurgled again. "Not scare. Negotiate from a position of strength. And if negotiations fail?" A profound silence fell over the chamber. Finally, Admiral Zelka's skin pulsed a somber blue. "Then the Council would be deeply saddened by humanity's loss." "There it is," Eli asserted. "Got it. We're the expendable guard dog. Your people have a saying," Admiral Zelka said. "The debt must be paid." "We have a lot of sayings," Eli countered. "Like don't poke the bear, and this is a terrible plan, and maybe we should rethink this entire approach." Nevertheless, the Admiral continued as if he hadn't spoken, "Your government has agreed to provide assistance. They merely requested we explain the situation to the mission commander." Her translucent skin rippled. "That would be you. Ili di plus lamenteth." "Of course it is." The human delegation ship, grandly named Diplomat's Overture, but which Eli had mentally rechristened Sacrificial Lamb, hung in space at the edge of the Dravak's territorial boundary. It was a sleek vessel, the pride of Earth's modest fleet, equipped with the latest advancements in both human ingenuity and council-shared technology. Not that any of that would matter if the Dravaks decided to atomize them. "Status report," Eli ordered, settling into the captain's chair on the bridge. His exo-commander, Leia Okafor, looked up from her console. "Dravak patrol vessels detected on long-range sensors. 3 ships, warship class. Time to intercept, 47 minutes at current speed," she reported. "They've adjusted course to investigate us." "So the bait worked," Eli murmured. "Fantastic." Lieutenant Marcus Alvarez, their communication specialist, swiveled in his chair. "Captain, I've been analyzing the Dravak communication patterns we've intercepted. There's something odd about their language structure." "Definod, lieutenant." Their formal communications are structured around dominance assertions. Every message begins with what translates roughly as "I am superior to you," because followed by the actual content. Eli raised an eyebrow. "So they start every conversation with a flex?" "Essentially, yes." Alvarez nodded. "And the recipient either acknowledges the dominance claim or counters with their own. Like a verbal pissing contest," Eli mused. "Charming." "It gets better," Alvarez continued, barely concealing his excitement. The linguist in him was clearly fascinated, diplomatic crisis notwithstanding. "They look failure to establish dominance as submission, and any form of politeness or deference is interpreted as weakness." Commander Okafor frowned. "So the Council's standard diplomatic protocols would register as immediate surrender?" "Yes." Eli pinched the bridge of his nose. "No wonder they've made no headway. The Council species are biologically wired for cooperation, not confrontation." "What's our play, Captain?" Okafor asked. Eli stared at the tactical display, watching the red dots of the approaching Dravak vessels. A ridiculously suicidal plan began to form his mind. Lieutenant Alvarez, I want you to prepare a message. But first, tell me everything you know about Dravak cultural taboos and insults. Alvarez blinked. Sir, you heard me. I want to know exactly how to piss them off without crossing the line into vaporize the humans' territory. That's a very fine line, Captain. Welcome Torstai diplomacy, ili grinet. Human style. The Dravaks were exactly as terrifying as their reputation suggested. The view screen showed a being that resembled a cross between a velociraptor and a great white shark, if both had evolved opposable thumbs and a fondness for heavy armor. Ribbed gray skin stretched over powerful muscle. A crest of spines ran from head to tail, and eyes like molten gold fixed Eli with a predator's calculating stare. I am Fleet Commander Vrakash of the Dravak Imperium. The creature growled, its translator rendering a voice like gravel in a garbage disposal. I am superior to you because my ancestors conquered stars while yours cowered in caves. State your purpose or be destroyed. Eli leaned back in his captain's chair, quietly casual. I'm Captain Eli Consincade of Earth. I'm superior to you because I've watched your ships blundering towards us for the past hour and decided to let you live. We're here to talk about your little expansion problem. A ripple of shock passed through his bridge crew. The Dravak commander's spines flared in what Alvarez had briefed was either extreme superiority, aggression, or reluctant respect. You claim human. Vrakash's mandibles clicked. Your vessel is outgunned. Your species is young. Your territory is minimal. And yet, Eli countered, here I am, in your territory, forcing you to have a conversation instead of doing whatever important conquering you had planned today. Seems pretty superior to me. A sound emerged from the Drax that the translator couldn't parse. Something between a hiss and a laugh. You are either very brave or very foolish, Vrakash said. Perhaps both. This amuses me. You may continue to exist for now. Generos, ili dit bannet. Here's the deal. Your expansion route is becoming problematic. You're approaching territories with connections to Earth. We prefer you didn't. The weak fall before the strong. This is the way of the universe. See, that's where you're wrong. Eli leaned forward. The truly strong don't need to prove anything. Only the insecure feel compelled to constantly demonstrate their power. Vrakash's golden eyes narrowed. You question the strength of the Dravak. I question your tactics, Eli. They are efficient. Don't waste energy. But your conquest pattern is wasteful, destroying resources you could be using, killing potential labor forces, creating enemies rather than assets. You propose an alternative? I propose a demonstration. Eli nodded to Okafor, who tapped a sequence into her console. We're transmitting coordinates, a neutral system, uninhabited. Meet us there in 3 days with your flagship. No fleet, just as will come without ours. For what purpose? To show you what humans consider efficient predation. This is insane, Commander Okafor said as they prepared to depart for the designated meeting. You're challenging the Dravak to what amounts to a duel. Not a duel, Eli corrected, checking the equipment manifest one final time. A hunting trip. Lieutenant Alvarez looked up from his station. The Council is having collective apoplexy, sir. The Vexery ambassador used a term my translator rendered as certifiably deranged. Vertekt, ili noted. That's exactly the reputation we want. The plan was audacious, possibly idiotic, and relied heavily on Eli's reading of Dravak psychology from the limited information available. But it was the only play he could see that didn't end with humanity being either conquered or abandoned by the Council. The neutral system they'd chosen contained a small rocky planet with a toxic atmosphere, uninhabitable without special equipment, but rich in rare minerals. More importantly, it was home to indigenous life forms that had evolved into perfect killing machines, 12-foot segmented predators that resembled a nightmarish fusion of centipede and crocodile. The locals called it Planet LV-426. The Council had it classified as approach with extreme caution. Humans called it That hellhole where the survey team lost 3 people. It was perfect. Fleet Commander Vrakash arrived exactly as agreed in a single command ship. Although Eli had no doubt there were cloaked vessels standing by somewhere in the system. The Dravaks weren't stupid. Neither were humans. The Diplomat's overture had a few surprises of its own tucked away. The 2 ships hung in orbit around the desolate planet. A tense standoff until Eli hailed the Dravak vessel. Commander Vrakash, Eli greeted when the alien's fearsome visage appeared on screen. I am superior to you because I arrived first and secured the prime landing zone. A rumbling sound that might have been appreciation emerged from the Dravak. I am superior to you because I allowed you this small victory to observe your tactics. What is this demonstration you promised, human? A hunt, Eli replied simply. You, me, and the most dangerous prey this sector has to offer. No weapons beyond survival gear. No backup, just skill against skill. Predator against predator. Vrakash's spines flared. You challenge me to hunt beside you. I challenge you to keep up, Eli corrected. My team has already located a nest of the apex predators. The indigenous population calls them death crawlers. I believe your xenobiologists have classified them as extreme threat level. I'm familiar with the species, Vrakash said. They're formidable. The council races avoid this planet entirely. Eli noted, we humans established a research base here last year. Lost some people, learned some lessons. This wasn't entirely true. The research base was actually a hastily constructed outpost established specifically for this mission. But the lost survey team part was unfortunately accurate. What are your terms, human? Simple. We hunt together. We each take a trophy from the same nest. Then we talk about territory expansion and mutual respect. And if I refuse this hunt, Ili Scrupith, then I guess humans are the only apex predators with the courage to face these creatures. That would be informative for future dealings. The untranslatable sound came again for Vrakash. Louder this time. You have spirit, Captain Consincade. I will meet you on the surface in one planetary rotation. The surface of LV-426 was every bit as delightful as the survey reports had indicated. Howling winds carrying corrosive particles scoured the rocky landscape. The sky, visible through the faceplate of Eli's environmental suit, was a sickly yellowish green. Visibility fluctuated with the gusting storms, sometimes dropping to mere meters. Perfect hunting conditions if you were suicidal. Vrakash arrived at the designated coordinates in an environmental suit adapted for his physiology. The Dravak commander was even more imposing in person, standing nearly 8 feet tall with a powerful, sinuous build. You actually came alone, Eli observed, truly surprised. As did you, Vrakash replied. Perhaps we understand each other better than expected. Eli activated his terrain scanner, bringing up a holographic display of the surrounding 5 kilometers. Deathcrawler Nest is located here, he said, indicating a cavern system 2 kilometers northeast. They're most active during the planet's dust storms, which are approaching. Convenient timing, Vrakash noted, looking at the darkening horizon. I'm efficient, Eli said with a grin hidden behind his faceplate. Now, a few ground rules. These creatures hunt mainly through vibration and heat-sensing signatures. Our suits dampen both, but not completely. Move carefully. Stay downwind. I require no instruction on hunting, human. Your funeral, Eli scraped. But when you're being digested inside a death crawler's secondary stomach, remember, I offered help. They set off across the barren landscape. 2 apex predators from different worlds, united momentarily in the primal simplicity of the hunt. The trek was arduous, made worse by the increasing intensity of the dust storm. Visibility dropped to nearly 0 at times, forcing them to rely on their scanners. Your species continues to surprise me, Vrakash said as they picked their way down a rocky slope. The council races cower and negotiate. You challenge and hunt. We had good teachers, Eli replied. Earth wasn't exactly a peaceful paradise during our evolution. Everything was trying to eat everything else. We just got better at it than most. Yet you align with the plant eaters and filter feeders? Alliance doesn't mean sameness, Eli said. It means mutual benefit. The Council has technology and knowledge. We have. He paused. Other qualities. You are their protectors, Vrakash surmised. They're predators on a leash. No one puts humans on a leash, Commander. Eli's voice hardened. We choose our path. Sometimes that means fighting. Sometimes that means making friends with plant eaters who know things we don't. They fell silent as they approached the cave entrance. The scanner showed multiple large heat signatures moving within the complex tunnel system. Death crawlers, at least a dozen, perhaps more. How do your people typically hunt these creatures? Vrakash asked, studying the scanner display. We don't, Eli admitted. That's the point. We're smart enough to avoid unnecessary risks. Then what is this, if not unnecessary? This, Eli said, is diplomacy. The death crawler was everything the reports had described, and worse. Its segmented body undulated with surprising speed across the cavern floor. Each segment protected by chitinous armor. Multiple rows of legs ended in hooked claws that could anchor into rock or flesh with equal ease. Its sensory apparatus, a cluster of heat-detecting organs where a head should be, swiveled toward the intruders, and a mouth lined with circular rows of teeth opened in a silent scream. Magnificent, Vrakash breathed, his translator conveying genuine admiration. That's one word for it, Eli said slowly, reaching for the sonic disruptor at his belt. The only weapon they'd agreed upon, and effective only at stunning the creatures temporarily. The death crawler charged. What followed was a chaotic dance of predator versus predator. The creature was fast, but Vrakash was faster. His evolutionary heritage as a pursuit predator evident in every movement. The Dravak commander dodged with surprising grace, using the cavern's terrain to his advantage. Eli circled to the opposite side, activating his sonic disruptor. The high-frequency sound waves disoriented the creature momentarily, sending it into a thrashing confusion. Vrakash seized the opportunity, leaping onto its back segments and driving a ceremonial hunting blade, apparently exempt from the no-weapons agreement, into a weak junction between armor plates. The death crawler screamed a high, piercing sound that echoed through the cavern system. Worse, it was answered by similar screams, deeper within the nest. We've got company incoming, Eli warned, checking his scanner. At least 3 more this way, fast. Vrakash wrenched his blade free as the death crawler collapsed. You said we each need a trophy, he reminded Eli. Claim yours quickly. About that, Eli grinned behind his faceplate. I'm not here for a trophy. I'm here to show you something about human strategy. He pulled a small device from his belt pack and tossed it to Vrakash. Hold this a moment, would you? The Dravak caught it reflexively. What is this device? That, Eli said, backing towards the cave entrance, is what humans call an insurance policy. The approaching death crawlers were visible now, their segmented bodies slithering over cavern walls and ceiling in defiance of gravity. The hunt is not complete, Vrakash protested. These new challengers are not part of our agreement. But that device you're holding contains 2 things, Eli finished. 1, a sonic lure that's currently broadcasting easy prey signals that every death crawler in a kilometer radius can sense. And 2, a 1-person emergency teleport beacon keyed to your ship's transporter frequency. Vrakash looked down at the device, then back at Eli. You tricked me. I demonstrated human hunting strategy, Eli corrected. Rule 1. Don't fight if you don't have to. Rule 2. Always have an escape plan. Rule 3. Sometimes the best trophy is the knowledge you've gained. The death crawlers were mere meters away now. 10 seconds. Ili Varnith. Vrakash pressed the center button on the device. We will continue our discussion aboard my vessel, Captain Consincade. As the Dravak commander dissolved in a shimmer of teleport energy, Eli tapped his wrist control again. Okafor, now would be good. The world disappeared in a blue-white glow just as the first death crawler lunged for the space where he had stood. Sitting across from Vrakash in the surprisingly comfortable conference room of the Dravak flagship was not how Eli had expected this mission to end. Yet here they were, predator to predator, without environmental suits or weapons between them. Your strategy was unconventional, Vrakash said, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. No Dravak would have surrendered their weapons to an adversary. I didn't surrender anything, Eli pointed out. I used a tool to achieve an objective. The objective being to demonstrate your cunning rather than your strength. The objective being to get us talking like this, Eli said, gesturing between them. Without posturing, without fleets standing by, just two representatives trying to avoid an unnecessary conflict. Vrakash's golden eyes studied Eli with unnerving intensity. You could have simply requested such a meeting. Would you have respected a request? Eli asked pointedly. After a pause, Vrakash acknowledged. No, a direct request would have signaled weakness. Exactly, Eli leaned forward. So I had to speak your language first. The language of challenge and hunt. Now we can speak mine. The language of mutual benefit. For the next hour, they talked about territory and resources, about the nature of expansion and the differences in their species' approaches to the galaxy. Eli explained the human concept of sustainable growth versus the Dravak philosophy of conquest. Your council allies fear us, Vrakash said at one point. They see only teeth and claws in warships. They don't understand psychology, Eli admitted. But humans do. We've been playing both sides of that evolutionary divide for our entire history. And what do you understand about us that they do not? That true apex predators don't need to constantly prove themselves, Eli said. That strength shown through restraint is more impressive than strength shown through destruction. That the most successful hunters are those who maintain their hunting grounds rather than depleting them. Vrakash was silent for a long moment. And if we choose to continue our expansion as planned, then you'll eventually reach Earth-allied space, Eli said simply. And while we're not as technologically advanced as you, we are very, very creative when cornered. The council races would vanish before your fleet in honorable battle. Humans don't do honorable battle, Eli said. We do victory by any necessary means. Threats, Captain. Information, Eli corrected. The same as I provided about the death crawlers. You can choose to use that information wisely or ignore it at your peril. Another long silence filled the room. Finally, Vrakash's spines relaxed slightly. A sign, Alvarez had explained, of contemplation rather than aggression. I will bring your words to the Imperium Council, the Dravak commander said. Your demonstration was educational. Perhaps there are hunting strategies we have not considered. It wasn't a promise of peace, but it was more than the Galactic Council had managed in decades of formal diplomatic attempts. That's all I ask, Eli said. That, and maybe reconsider your expansion route. There are resource-rich systems in the Omicron sector that aren't aligned with anyone. No need for conflict when unclaimed territory exists. You would direct our expansion? I'd suggest an efficient hunting ground, Eli countered. Predator to predator. Vrakash made that untranslatable sound once more. You are either the bravest or most foolish species I've encountered, Captain Consincade. We get that a lot, Eli admitted with a smile. 3 weeks later, Eli stood once again in the council chamber of the Nova Concord station. The assembled watched him with expressions ranging from shocked disbelief to weary hope. To summarize, Admiral Zelka said, her skin pulsing with rapid patterns of blue and gold. The Dravak Imperium has altered their expansion trajectory away from council space, opened preliminary diplomatic channels, and she paused as if struggling with the concept, requested human representatives for future negotiations. That's correct, Eli confirmed. They've also expressed interest in a cultural exchange program. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of translated exclamations, questions, and what sounded like a jar having a minor panic attack. Admiral Zelka raised her hands for silence. And what did humanity offer in exchange for this unprecedented cooperation? Understanding, Eli said simply, and respect. The Dravaks are apex predators, but that doesn't make them mindless conquerors. They respond to strength and strategy, not appeasement and avoidance. You hunted with their commander, the Morgan representative gurgled, sounding both horrified and fascinated. A ritual of blood bonding? We play to our strengths, Eli corrected. Humans might not have the most advanced technology or the largest fleet, but we understand predator psychology from the inside. We've spent our evolutionary history both predator and prey. It gives us a unique perspective. The Vexary ambassador clicked thoughtfully. So the debt is repaid? Ili smiled. I'd say so, with interest. This is merely the beginning, Admiral Zelka noted. The Dravaks are still dangerous, still expansionist. True, Eli acknowledged. But now they're expanding in a direction that doesn't lead to war, and they're talking instead of conquering. I call that progress. And if they change their minds? The cheetah counselor asked, skin flaps, trembling anxiously. Then they'll have to deal with humanity, Eli said simply. And as I explained to Commander Vrakash, we're very creative when threatened. A thoughtful quiet fell over the chamber as the assembled representatives contemplated the implications of having humans, these strange, adaptable, part-predator newcomers, as allies rather than just junior members of the council. Admiral Zelka's skin pulsed once with a bright flash of white, a gesture of formal acknowledgement. The Council recognizes and appreciates Earth's contribution to galactic security. The debt is indeed repaid. As the meeting adjourned, the Vexary ambassador cornered Eli privately. There is something I don't understand, Captain, Thrix said quietly. How did you know the Dravaks would respond to your unusual diplomatic approach? I didn't, Eli admitted. But I figured if they were watching our historical documentaries, they had some interest in understanding us. Predators study their competition. It's instinctual. And the hunt, the death crawlers, was that not unnecessarily dangerous? Calculated risk, Eli said. We needed to demonstrate both courage and intelligence. The willingness to face danger with the sense to avoid it when possible. In predator terms, that earns respect. The ambassador's antennae twitched. Humans are more complex than we initially evaluated. Most species are, Eli replied with a smile. That's the other lesson we hope the Dravaks take away from this. Diversity of approach is strength, not weakness. As he walked back to the diplomat's overture, Eli couldn't help but reflect on the irony. Humanity had been brought into the galactic community as equals, then adjusted to the role of useful newcomers. Strong enough to be helpful, but not important enough to be essential. Now they demonstrated value in a way no one had anticipated, not as warriors or technologists, but as translators between evolutionary worldviews, as bridges between predator and prey psychologies. The message to the galaxy was clear: underestimate humans at your peril. We may be young, we may be small, but we've spent millennia perfecting the art of survival against the odds. And sometimes the most dangerous predator isn't the one with the biggest teeth. It's the one smart enough to avoid using them unless absolutely necessary. The debt was repaid, and the galaxy would never look at humanity quite the same way again. When the news reached Earth, the response was predictably human. Equal parts pride, humor, and practical planning for the future. Diplomats scrambled to develop predator psychology courses. Xenobiologists published papers on evolutionary convergence in aggressive species. Military strategists revised their galactic threat assessments. And in a quiet bar in Geneva, not far from the United Earth Government headquarters, Captain Eli Consincade shared drinks with his core team from the Diplomat's Overture. To creative problem-solving, Commander Okafor toasted, raising her glass. To not getting eaten by space centipedes, Lieutenant Alvarez countered with a grin. To humanity, Eli said simply, may we always be just unpredictable enough to keep the galaxy guessing. They clinked glasses as the news screen overhead displayed the latest update. The Dravak Imperium has officially requested to open an embassy on Earth, the first non-council species to do so. You know what this means, don't you? Okafor asked, nodding towards the screen. That I'm going to end up as the human ambassador to a race of space velociraptors? Ili exclaimed. That humanity just became the most valuable member of the Galactic Council without firing a shot, she corrected. They need us now. They always need us, Eli said. They just didn't know why. Outside the bar window, the night sky sparkled with stars. each one potentially home to civilizations with their own evolutionary paths, their own psychological frameworks, their own ways of understanding the universe. And somewhere out there, a race of apex predators was reconsidering its approach to galactic politics because one human had chosen to hunt rather than hide, to communicate rather than confront. Not bad for the new kids on the cosmic block. Eli raised his glass again. To repaying debts in unexpected ways, and to the galaxy shaking in fear. Alvarez suggested with a smirk. No, Eli said thoughtfully. To the galaxy reconsidering its assumptions. That's much more valuable than fear. But as they continued their celebration into the night, he couldn't help but wonder how the council races were truly processing this new reality. That their pet omnivores had just tamed the most feared predators in known space using nothing but wits and a willingness to walk into danger. Fear might be too strong a word for what the galaxy was feeling toward humanity tonight, but it was definitely respect. And for a species barely out of its planetary cradle, respect was currency worth more than all the rare minerals in the cosmos. Humanity had repaid its debt, and in doing so, changed its place in the galactic order forever.